What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another great episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast dedicated to you, the digital agency owner that wants to scale faster, create that freedom so you can build the agency that you've always wanted. On today's episode, we have an amazing guest who's built a really amazing agency working with all kinds of clients. We're going to go and talk to him. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show. I always time it well when someone's like, they never know how fast that bumper is. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Tell us who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, so I am the founder and CEO of Colorado SEO Pros. My name is Chris Rodgers. We are a boutique SEO agency is how I would characterize us. Mainly what that means to me is that we handle a relatively small number of clients, and we're typically handling larger clients, national, a handful of enterprise, not a lot of small mom and pop, that kind of thing.
And how did you start the agency? Are you an accidental agency owner, or did you have plans to always own an agency?
Probably accidental. So, I did corporate marketing and sales in Chicago. Got exposed to digital marketing there. Ultimately started really hating my job on the sales side, just because the way the company did business. Got attracted to digital in part because of all the data and the tracking, right? There was so much transparency in there. Ended up doing a full-time master's program in digital marketing, left my corporate job, and then moved out to Colorado and did a startup out here. Actually a social media and travel startup in the ski and snowboard space. And then at that time, I ended up going and working for an agency as an SEO, as a senior analyst, doing that on the side. And then when my startup really didn't get to the next stage, I started my own agency, and here in Colorado is kind of my parallel move.
Awesome. The first couple of years of the agency, were they tough for you, or was it easier than you thought?
No, it was definitely hard. It started out in my home office. I had an intern that was working for me for college credit, showing up in like his pajamas, doing work.
Were they dragon pajamas?
I don't even remember. He was young. I remember one day he came in really late, and I sent him home and said, "You need to go buy yourself an alarm clock, and I've got tough decisions to make." And he, kind of crapped his pants, and
I just picture. I love watching the show America's Got Talent, and there was a guy I think that came on he was a comedian as a dragon. It was called Puff the Magic Dragon or something. And I just picture this intern dressed in a little pajama outfit, like smoking a joint coming in, since you guys are in Colorado.
Man, yeah, he ended up being turning into one of my main guys and being a really talented SEO guy. But when we started out, awesome. I remember going out into Denver, and I went and found all these businesses that looked like they had rankings, like at the bottom of the second page, and I'm like, oh, this is a business I can really help. And I go in and say, hey, this is why you guys need SEO, and they're like, what is SEO? And it totally didn't work, like at all, So then we came back and we said, all right, well, we're going to build out our website and do SEO on our own website. And we did that for it was like a 9-month period, and then knocked out like one of the major players in the Colorado market. That's I think the biggest company here now, and a big national one. And then all of a sudden we started getting leads from like all over the country and some international. And then we, for a while, just tried to hang on. And I remember we were like a few months behind on reporting at one point, and having a hard time just like keeping up with everything. So yeah, the early stages of the company were very challenging.
So what was the toughest part? Was the toughest part just keeping up with all the business coming to you because you didn't have the right people, or what were the things you would change?
Well, that was the super early, right? Because it was just me and one other person. But we came from an SEO background, right? So it wasn't like, hey, I know how to build a business and we're going to figure out how we can use SEO to make money. it was, okay, we know how to do SEO. Let's go make money from it. And then I had to figure out how to make a business out of that. And so we were doing everything custom because we wanted to be different, and we thought we were better than everybody the way that we were doing it. And come to find out, getting that into an organized business that scales was the real challenge. And so when we got into years 2, 3, 4, there's periods where you get that early, I can't really afford the people that I need. So I've got interns and I've got, really young people that I'm trying to teach. And then we got the swings of the business where we lose a client and all of a sudden I'm skipping paychecks, right? And Chris is just having to give up his money. And then those first few years, for a chunk of them, every time I feel like we're starting to make some money, it's going all back to the employees, right? It's going all back because they're not getting paid enough to even pay the wages that I should be. And as they get more experience, they're more valuable. So it just felt like I could never keep up making enough money to pay my employees what they needed to make, and at the same time make any margin and make any money in the business.
Can't tell you how many, like, I think everyone that starts a business goes through that. That goes for service-based businesses. So what did you do in order to get over that hump from, like all the money coming in and keeping some of it, and then being able to pay people more and then, increase that profitability? Because you guys are doing fantastic now.
So some of that just happens with size, right? So I feel like once we got close to $1 million and then beyond that, we had a little bit more room, right? But I can tell you the other thing that's been a big change for us is we charge a lot more than we ever have. We doubled our minimum. We increased our contract length. And, some of it's because we really built up a reputation. We have case studies. We have a track record. So we can ask for those higher dollar amounts and, quite frankly, get paid what we should get paid based on the value we deliver. And that was my problem. I was just trying to deliver as much value, and that's always what I was thinking. But what I was doing in the back end was shorting us and shorting myself and my employees.
Yeah, that's a big mistake that I know I've made where, you start off, I started off my career selling $500 websites. And then when I raised them to 1,000, I thought I had to do double the work. Right. And then I was like, oh, but I got to really impress them because this is our first bigger client, and then they can get us into other divisions. So let me do even more. And then you do all this work and then they'll leave you in a heartbeat, rather than looking at kind of the value you deliver and going, I always tell everybody, and if I could go back, I would say, think about what I wanted to make personally that year and what does the business need to make. And then in order to do that, how many clients do we want? And then what do we need to charge? And then you can kind of map that out and you're like, okay, I want 10 clients. Like, I can't stand it when people are at, let's say they're at 500,000 in revenue and they have 50 clients and they want to get to 1 million. They're like, I need 100 clients. I'm like, no. Does that sound familiar?
You're creating the biggest headache you could ever imagine is what you're creating.
Yeah, exactly. So what were some of the other than raising prices? Because I need to just create a t-shirt like raise your prices stupid, because that's, I feel, one of the best strategies you can do. But in order to raise the prices, what were some of the steps that you needed to do in order to get there?
Well, some of it was track record. Like I said, we had to work with high enough profile companies. We had some enterprise organizations, large projects, complex projects, brands that recognized the value for what we did and paid us for what we did, and being able to show that track record. The other thing that I can tell you is figuring out the clients that we wanted to pick, and something more recently, we've changed. We've had a big change in our team and our employees, and our philosophy in the beginning very much was, we bring people out of college, we train them, because we didn't like that we'd look at people who had a couple years experience and we'd look at the salary they'd expect, and we'd be like, we got to train this person anyway because they don't know what they think they know. But what we found is we didn't have the business acumen and we did not have the experience in a lot of those employees to be able to deliver at the level that we needed to ask for those larger tickets. So today we've got our SEO. We've got a full-time staff of 12 people. Everyone except one does SEO in some way, and we've got close to 100 years in SEO experience combined. So we've hired older people that know how to work, that know how to take direction, that are professional, that show on to calls and present an experience that matches what we're asking to charge. We don't have a bunch of entitled people that come in and, don't pull their weight. So it's the culture has changed a little bit because we're looking to deliver a very high level experience for our clients.
I started watching a show on Netflix the other day. It's called Snowflake Mountain.
I just saw the preview for that.
And that just reminded me, of some of the entitled people. And I want to make sure I highlight this because I want to make sure as a listener, you guys don't miss this. I like that you're saying we have a process to train someone. So why bring in someone that has 5 years of SEO experience and train them? But I love that you brought in people that are probably similar in what your belief system is. They're probably, we're not old, but we're older. Probably the Generation X. If I had to guess, I see the little salt and pepper in your hair.
Just stopped carding me. I'm not happy about it.
You're not? Oh, I love mine. That means I could charge more.
I keep waiting, and I'm like, I got the card. I'm like, and?
Yeah, gray hair means you can charge more. You have more experience. But what I love is and that's what we did with Darby, our agency scale specialist. He came from the flooring industry. He was in similar life, similar experiences, right? But I had no experience in the agency world. But we had really good training, and I can walk him through a number of different models. And a lot of people in the mastermind actually prefer chatting with him over me, which I'm like, awesome. Yeah. So, I want for everyone to kind of pick up on that of going, if you keep complaining about some of the younger people that you're having trouble with, if you're training them and they're skipping out, because that's a lot of people coming out of school. You'll train them, they'll stay with you for a year or 2 years, and then they ditch you for the next. If you're looking for people with more life experience, I think that's what we're talking about, more life experience, train them in a new field, they'll stay with you forever.
Yeah, I had a conversation with another agency owner, and I was telling him about some of the management issues that we had. And he mentioned the book Good to Great, and he said, sounds like you got the wrong people on the bus. And in a 2-year period, we got all the wrong people off the bus, and we got all the right people on the bus. And it has been a complete game changer. We don't have fires that are going off left and right anymore. Things are pretty stable and moving forward and growing. I had a bunch of days this past year where I go to log on and I look at my calendar and I got a laundry list of things that I should be doing and that I need to do. But in terms of meetings and a packed schedule, half of these days were like semi-empty. I'm like, what has happened?
So let me ask you about that, because a lot of times when we're coaching and helping out our mastermind members to be able to get to a point where they transform from an owner to a CEO, and they say the same thing. They look at their calendars or they go into a meeting and they're not needed anymore for the things that they used to do. When that happened to you, were you depressed for a little while or were you excited?
It's a weird feeling. It's a really weird feeling because part of me is like trying to move that. I got a family. I want balance. There's different things that are important as you get a little bit older. And then it happened and I'm like, well, but is this good? Like, I think it is good, but it feels weird. Okay, let's go back to my list. What are all the things that I should be working on, right? What are all the things that I should be doing as CEO? So being able to have some time as CEO feels really good, right? Not just being the owner operator that does a million different things. But it's a strange feeling. And it's hard not to feel guilty.
That, I think you nailed it on the head too. A lot of times I felt, when I got that way with the first agency, we were able to go to the racetrack all the time and race cars thank you Solar Velocity for sponsoring. the race team. But I felt bad because I felt like if I was not working and having fun, my team would be like, oh, I'm just working for this guy to race all the time. But we rewarded them, and they shared the same vision, and they knew that we were always building relationships. I mean, that's how we got Lotus Cars, was at the racetrack.
Yeah.
So you just got to figure out creative ways in order to do it. But I'm glad you mentioned guilt, because I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's not like it's a permanent fixture. So we, just like any agency, we have our ebbs and flows. So there's stuff that I'm jumping back in, and I like being able to go and get hands on too. Like I will. It's a weird thing because I still enjoy doing SEO. Now, in terms of like the hardcore tacticals, like I couldn't do a content blueprint. I could do a content blueprint, but I'm not doing those things. But in terms of strategy and getting in and looking at data, like I still enjoy doing that. So there's a little bit of a push and pull there where I'm like, well, I really shouldn't be doing those things, but I also need to stay sharp, right? I need to know what's going on and keep those abilities and make sure that that stuff doesn't fade. So I also like being able to jump around and do different things within the agency, but sometimes I don't feel like I exactly know where my time should go or where I should be focusing.
Yeah, I love what you were saying about that, is because it is so true. You have a role as a CEO. Setting the vision and communicating that to your team is probably one of the most important, and then coaching and mentoring them, and really being a resource to them or to your leadership team. I feel like a lot of times I work for them so they can do their job and get to where they're going, a lot faster. And I feel that those companies grow at a substantial rate, and it's enjoyable because culture and because you're with these people more than your family a lot of times. And so you better be with really cool people and not jerks.
Yeah.
I remember I had this one guy come in. He was the most amazing 3D designer. And he comes in, and you could just tell the arrogance walked into the room. And literally had like his business card and sat down, like kind of plopped down and threw it at me. And so me and Scott, who we interviewed, were like, yeah, we're not going to hire this guy. He was the best designer we've ever seen, but he would have just killed our culture. And so people are everything. And I'm glad you're covering that. Well, this has all been amazing, Chris. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience?
I don't think so. I mean, the only thing that I would share that I think every owner, well, not every, but a lot of them have challenges with is figuring out what you want, and figuring out what I want has been a challenge and really, really important. And I can't say I exactly know what I want today. I know in broad terms, I want freedom and security, right? And then I want to enjoy the ride on the way there. But I do think it's something that agency owners struggle with. And if you don't take the time to actually ask yourself what you want, you might be kind of floating along like a boat without a rudder kind of thing.
Yeah. And what everyone wants is not to be $100 million agency or a $10 million agency. I see too many people. I was asking the mastermind last month or the month prior. I was like, what's everybody's end game? What do you guys want? They're like, we want a $100 million agency. I'm like, well, why? They couldn't tell me.
Right.
And I'm like, well, what can you do with 100 million? Well, and then I'm like, well, could you do that with 10 million? And they're like, probably. I was like, can you do that with 5 million? Yeah. Could you do that now? Yeah, I could. And one of the things that helped me, and I've told this a couple times, but you got to kind of beat people over the head a couple times before they actually do it. If you guys want a great exercise to figure out what you want, do this. Get a sheet of paper, put your fist on a piece of paper, draw a circle around it. On the outside of that circle, draw everything or write down everything you hate. This is a process of elimination, and spend some time doing this. Don't do 5 minutes, like spend an hour going, I hate doing project management. I hate doing sales, do all this stuff. Then once you do that, then you can go on the inside of the circle and focus on everything you love doing. And then what I want everyone to do is create rules around your calendar. So I don't work on Mondays. I don't work on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And I only work from about 9 to 2 on the 3 days in between. So I create rules, and then and that's for the week. And then I create rules for the quarter. I'm going to take my family on a vacation, once a quarter or once every or twice a year or whatever it is. And you create the rules, and then you're able to create that stuff before you have to get to selling your agency. Because I hate when people are like, I'll do it after I sell. I'm like, that's bullshit.
Well, hope that works out for you, right?
Yes.
You never know what the future holds.
No, never know. So awesome. Well, what's the agency website? People can go and check you guys out.
It's coloradoseopros.com.
Awesome. Well, go check out that website. Thanks so much for coming on the show. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it out. Make sure you comment. Make sure if you're not subscribed, I'm going to beat you. If you made it to this long, you should subscribe. And if you want to be around amazing agency owners where we're sharing the best strategies in the world that's working for them, and we're able to help see you or see the things you might not be able to see, or really talk you off the ledge, as a lot of us we need some shrink sessions. I'd love to invite all of you to go to digitalagencyelite.com. This is our exclusive mastermind for agency owners that are growing really rapid, that are fun, that are humble, and that are just want to grow faster. So go to digitalagencyelite.com. And until next time, have a swank day.